welcome to our listeners to this talk, and of course, a special warm welcome to Mr. Daniel Steinman himself. It is the time of the week, and today we will be talking about base effect. Now, when we talk about base effect, people would probably think it's something musical, or something to do with a musical instrument, but no, it is something to do with the economy, and that is what we will be talking about today. So to start off, what is base effect? When we talk about base effect, what it is?
I honestly don't know. Elsabe, it's very important that I explain the effect of base effect.
Mm-mm.
And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I was sort of looking for a cue, a reason why it's necessary to talk about it, because it can become a very technical discussion, and then, what I always say, don't drown the audience in a university lecture. Because they don't really want to know. They only want to know how does it impact me. And so let me start with a historical event. The fact is, I was looking for a reason to talk about base effect. And then 2 weeks ago, the Statistics Agency announced the growth figures, the quarterly growth figures for the second quarter, calendar quarter of 2024. So that is up until the end of June. So the new quarterly figures are always released almost at the end of the next quarter. So at the same time, so you have to keep this in mind, the timeline. You have to understand the timeline. It's not, the quarterly growth is not announced in that same week or on that same day. It takes a while to get all the data in, to make the statistics, and so what was announced was the quarterly growth figure up until the end of June, and it came out to be 3.5%. Now suddenly everybody who had an opinion went into a convulsion. Whoa, the economy is going down. The economy is going down. 3.5%, whereas the second quarter of 2023, it was more than 5%. So there is a big difference, And why are we growing slower? And then I listened to all this nonsense that was printed and that was broadcast, and I thought I had to explain this.
Yeah.
Because this is the real kicker. The economy actually grew more this year than last year. Now I can see you are blinking at me and thinking, what the hell? And I'm going to get to it just now, but statistically, the growth was less. So, if you talk about base effect, it refers to the level from where you measure. And you must remember, everything in our economy was sort of reset in 2020 and 2021 with COVID.
Yeah.
If you draw up new schedules for growth, I'm fairly certain within the next year or so, the Statistics Agency will rebase this to 2020 to use that as a point datum. A base year from which you calculate everything else.
Yeah.
So you give that year a value of 100 and you start with new calculations. But remember, we lost nearly 10% of the economy. Now this is in 2020 and 2021. This is not slower growth. This is not the same tempo of growth. This is getting smaller.
Yeah.
This is losing size. It's shrinking. This is what happened in COVID.
Yeah.
It was 9.8%, but let's say for argument's sake, 10% of the economy was gone. So that base from which we measure, that really dropped, boom, over a precipice. It fell into a void, and now we had to start recalculating. And you must remember, in 2022, there were very little inflation. It only started by about September 2022. But the 2022 figures were good. They were positive. You could see that the economy is on the mend. And but they were not fantastic.
Yeah.
They were good. They were positive. We were happy. We could provide something. We could show the public that, according to the growth figures, we've turned the tide, and we are back on a growth trajectory. Then we came to, but that was from a very low base, So the growth in 2022 was actually minimal. In 2021, it was basically zero.
Yeah.
But so the base remained low. The point from which you measure remained very low. So 2022, it was in the region of 2.8 to 3% from that low base. Then came 2023. Boom. Explosion. Big increase. I think eventually, after all the reassessments of the data, we're going to get very close to a 6% growth rate for 2023.
Okay.
But it's a percentage. It's relative to where we were in 2020, which was very low. Now, that is the base. The base is the benchmark in the economy from which you use as a point of departure to calculate the future growth. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm not too
I hope
technical
it does
here.
make sense to the listeners, but it does.
Yeah, so you have to have a point. If the moment you're talking about growth, you're talking about percentages. So you have to measure it against something. And you usually measure it against the previous year. But if the previous year is at ground level, you can only go up. So a small increase from a low base is a big percentage increase.
Okay, let's quickly go for a short break while we're trying to process that. And once we get back, we will, of course, get into more details.